Hi, this is Julie with Beadaholique, and in this video, I'm going to teach you how to make the Harper Bangle Bracelet. So this is what it looks like in gold tones. It's kind of a gold bronzy look here. And I'm going to do the silver version. I'm going to make it a little sparklier with some AB cup chain. So let's go ahead and see what we're going to use to make this project. The base of it is a Nunn design, very wide bangle bracelet. So this gives us a really great channel to set our clay down into. Our clay is going to be crystal clay. It's a 2-part epoxy clay, and it cures without heat, and it's really nice because it's self-hardening and everything sticks to it, which is wonderful. For the center of the focal part of the bangle, we're going to be using this cup chain. It's a Swarovski crystal 32 pp cup chain, and you see it has the AB finish. For the edging, we're going to use some Nunn design 1.2 millimeter ball chain. And then for that wonderful look along the edge here, we're going to be using Miyuki rectangles. So these are beads. If we look at their side view, they have a single hole, and they're a really nice size because they're 9 millimeters tall by 4 millimeters wide. So a really great building block here. And I'm going to be using this color here with this wonderful AB finish as well. I did pull out a few extra colors of these rectangles because that's really going to give you a lot of variety in your design. And these are not full lot sizes. You do actually get a lot more when you buy each one. So we just have a great assortment of matte finishes, metallics, shinies, all of these really wonderful colors to create this project with, or a different beading project as well. And then for this project, I'm going to be using 2 full lots. Tools, you get this little beeswax toothpick that comes with your crystal clay, which is great. We're going to use that probably. We're definitely going to be using a pair of cutters, and we maybe are going to use a chain nose. I don't think so, but I wanted it handy. You're also going to notice that my work surface is covered. I just have some paper down. And then I'm also going to be putting on some gloves. Now what's nice is when you purchase this pack, you actually get a pack of gloves, but I'm going to show you a little something. I've already used half my clay, so I used up my gloves already. But what was nice is I just divided my clay exactly in half, and half was able to do this bangle. The other half is going to be able to do this bangle, so I was able to get 2 projects out of this one pack of clay, which is really nice. So let me show you how to mix your clay. That's going to be our first step because the clay is going to be what we're going to set everything down into, and we're not using any glue. All right, so I just have a spare pair of gloves. Definitely wear gloves. You're going to see why in just a minute. All right. So with epoxy clay, if you're not familiar with it, it has a part A and a part B. The color is the part A. So in this case, black. And then we have the hardener, which is part B. So these came as a bigger block, so twice the size of both of these. And what I did was I pinched them off and I just measured them, made 2 equal balls, so I knew I had 50-50. And then I put the remaining back in their original baggies, making sure they never touch. So this is nice and soft and squishy. And even though I'd opened my package and taken half off, it did not start to cure because the curing hardening process doesn't begin until these 2 pieces meet. So that was really handy. So you can definitely just use whatever you need for your project and save the rest for later. The key to making sure that this hardens properly is that you have equal parts of A and B. So that's easy to do if you're using the whole pack. It's actually pretty easy too if you're using half a pack. But if you are wanting to make smaller quantities, just roll equal balls, and then you'll make sure that you have the right ratio. Once you have it, squish them together. And you're going to see why I have my gloves on. So there's not really any odor to this. I don't really detect any. I know that's a question we get a bit, is does this have a lot of smell to it? I really don't feel that it does. It feels like a stickier version of polymer clay, if you're familiar with polymer clay. And it is something that you can mold, which is nice. And you see we're starting to get all those striations, kind of that marbling effect. Our goal is to mix it so that there's none of that marbling effect. I mean, it does look really cool. Like if you could just keep that as a pendant, it would be awesome, but it would not cure for you because it's not thoroughly mixed. All right, if you look at what we have now, we have a nice solid black clay, and that's what we wanted. We wanted it to not be striped or anything. So for this particular project, we're gonna roll it back into a ball. And now we're gonna try to make it more like a snake. So if you remember doing Play-Doh when you were a kid and you rolled a snake shape, you just are basically thinning it out. I do this with my son on a really regular basis, the Play-Doh that is. And your goal is to try to have it a fairly even thickness all the way around. So the more you roll it, the longer it gets and the skinnier it gets. So look for thick places and kind of roll them out. And what we want to do is our eventual goal is to make sure this goes all the way around our bangle. It's not quite there yet. Almost there. And it's sticky. This sticks right to it. There we go. All right, so I'm just gonna look for any thick spots. Just roll them a little bit because I know I'm pretty close. Okay, I think that's gonna do it. All right, so lay it down in the center of your bangle. And then go all the way around. There we go. All right, so now while you still have your gloves on, just try to make sure that guy is in the center and press him down. And we're going to keep walking around, pressing it down. So one thing that you'll notice as you work with the epoxy clay is the longer you work with it, the less sticky it gets, which can be good in some respects because it is quite sticky to begin with. And it actually has begun the curing process right now. So I say try to get all your work done within a half an hour. You'll want to work fast. You're not going to want to start this project and then put it down and go have a cup of coffee and come back a half hour later. So I'm just going around and around, pressing it down. And I'm going to take off my gloves at some point here and work with it with my fingers. I just want to get the majority of this done with the gloves on because you see it is rubbing off black on me here. Okay, so now that's good and on there. Take off my gloves. Don't reuse them, just throw them away. Use some disposable gloves. And I always feel like I have a little more control with my hands. So now I'm going to start pressing it out towards the edge. Don't worry about fingerprints. And I'm rotating the cuff, or not the cuff, excuse me, the bangle as I'm going. If you notice, every round I get a little bit closer to that edge, and I'm trying to not go over this little lip. It's okay if you do like that. You're just going to be able to push it back. And we're going to do a cleanup on this piece before we add anything to it. So your goal right now is just to fill the channel all the way to the edge with the epoxy clay. All right, when you think you've got it all to the edge, do a just quick once over and make sure there's no gaps. So just check both sides, because we're going to get to the stage here where we're going to really clean up our work before we add all our pretties to it. Okay, so this is what we've got thus far. It's all the way to the edge. My fingers are a little bit sticky. I'm going to go like this. All right, so now we want to try to clean it up so we don't have that hanging out over that little lip. So we're just going to go through and we're going to push it back. We're going to go one side at a time. We're just pushing that back. I just have my hand underneath, and I'm just using the pressure of my thumb to kind of try to make it look like it's all within the channel, and I'm holding it like this so that I'm not touching the clay with my other hand and causing it to become displaced. Okay, so we can see the difference between the side we've done and the side we haven't, so we're just going to rotate it. Flip it over and do the exact same thing on this side. We've got both sides done, and now what we want to do is, you see that some of the clay got a little squished here and there. So now just go through. You want to make that clay as even as possible. But because we're going to add so much on top of it, it's pretty forgiving. It does not have to be perfect. You just want it within its boundaries, and you just want to make sure there's not anything glaring. Like, you don't want to have like a big gap where you're seeing the center of the cuff where there's a big bulge. There can be little bulges because it's all going to get covered for the most part. Okay, so now I'm just taking my finger and I'm just kind of smoothing it out a little bit. Okay. So this is what yours is going to look like. It almost looks like an aged leather at this point. Kind of cool looking. Not perfectly smooth. Don't worry, yours doesn't need to be. You just want to kind of quality check it at this point. Make sure it looks pretty even and uniform, but it will be a little lumpy. All right, let's set down our rhinestone chain first. So this is cup chain. If you're not familiar with rhinestone cup chain, this is Swarovski crystal. It has these little metal bridges that connects all your little pieces. And you can make it really tight together, or you can make it really spread out. For this project, we want it spread out because we're going to then place a little rectangle that happens to be almost the exact size of each of these little set crystals on the edges. So we're going to take this, we are going to gently set it into the center of our bangle. And keep doing that till we get to where it overlaps. And then we're just going to cut that little metal bridge. Okay. And now we're not going to really press this into place at this stage. You want it in there so it's sticking in there. It's not coming off on you, but we're not really pushing it deep. Now we're going to take a Miyuki rectangle and we're going to set it next to it. We're going to press it in a little bit. We're going to do one on the other side. So our first couple ones that we set are really going to be more of an anchoring line just to make sure that this is centered. So I'm going to skip over a bunch of them, and now I'm going to put another one on each side. And I want them to rest up against the rhinestone chain. Okay, and we're just going to skip over a few more. And this is just making it so that you don't just start here, do all of them, and then realize your chain is off center. Whoops. And you want them to be as straight up and down as possible. So try to work at whatever angle is going to help you to produce that result. And if you want, you can take this little pick and press them in. All right, so now that we've got them spaced out, I'm pretty confident that this chain is placed correctly. So I'm gonna just make sure I don't have any real clay on my fingers. And I'm gonna just press this in a little bit more. Doesn't need to be a lot. And I'm also gonna press in the rectangles that I've already placed. You're going to go back and press them in even more at the end, but this is just a really good starting point. Okay, I believe that's where I started. So now we're going to go fill it in, and you can either do this a couple different ways. You can just start here and do them all along. Press them in, and then do the other side. I love this AB finish on here. So you can do that. So you can do chunks at a time and then just press them. Like that. Or you can just do an entire side and then go back and do the other entire side. Don't forget, you are working on a bit of a time limit here because of the epoxy clay. So make sure that you try to get this finished. Well, you'll need to finish it in one sitting. You're not going to be able to leave this and come back to it. But you can choose how you want to place these now that you've got these great little markers letting you know that you're on track and everything is even. I don't know why I personally like doing it this way. I think I feel like I actually get a whole section done, which is nice. You're just going to keep doing this. And once you've set a section or a couple inches, feel free to press it into the clay. And same with that chain. Just want to make sure it's all really secure. So in the beginning part, you're more worried about placement. You want to make it so it's not pressed so tightly. So if you did want to change it, you still had that ability without having to redo a lot of work. But once you know what you know, what's kind of happening and you like how it looks, then you can definitely go ahead and feel free to press it into the clay more. All right, we are almost done. Last couple beads, and then we're gonna help press these into place, and then we're gonna add one little finishing touch that I think helps to really make it look polished and finished. It was a good experiment I had, at least I think so. Sometimes you try something, you're like, I don't know if this is gonna look right. And you're like, oh, that actually does look pretty good. All right, so we've got them all in there. Go ahead and press them into place without dislodging them. Like, you don't want to press like this because that's going to push them off of their nice center. So you just press down. And they don't need to be fully submerged. They're going to stick in there. All right, so here's what we've got thus far. If we pull our example back, you'll notice one extra touch, and it's this little ball chain. And what that basically does is if you look at it from here, you're seeing all of those bead holes, which is fine. These are beads, that's great. But I think it's fun if someone looks at this and you say you made it, and they have no clue how you made this. They don't even know those are beads. So we're gonna just do a little edging that is going to help to just kind of obscure those holes a little bit. So you can even press that edge down into the clay a little bit more. Same with over here. Right. All right, finishing touch. So I have this little faceted ball chain, and it's faceted and sparkly, and it doesn't actually even look like ball chain to me. We're going to take it, and we are going to run it along the edge. I'm just going to lay it down along the edge and just press it into place, working it along. And so you can still see the holes a little bit, but now there's so much happening here that that's not at all what you concentrate on. And I have 2 feet of this chain. That's what I'm working with. Okay, get back to your center point, or starting point, I should say, and snip it off. You want to, you can use this little guy to help guide it. I maybe have one ball chain too much there, but it's going to be okay. Okay, and then just press it into place. Okay, and if you notice, because of the size of the Miyuki rectangles, you do have this little gap here. So that's what we're laying it into. I don't know if I showed you that before I started the other one, but there is just a little gap, a little edge. All right, so we've got that, and now we're going to do the other side. If you want to find where you started on this side right here, you could just do the same. There we go. And I'm not pre-measuring or pre-cutting. I just know I had 2 feet, which was going to be plenty. And I'm just working it along. That way you don't accidentally cut it too short. Okay, we're back to our starting point. There we go. And again, just press it into place. And we're done. So there is the silver version of our bangle bracelet, and we're calling this the Harper Bangle Bracelet. And we have the gold, and again, we use the 32 pp Swarovski crystal rhinestone cup chain. the Miyuki rectangle beads, the Nunn design ball chain, the 1.2 millimeter, and the Nunn design nice wide bangle bracelets. And then it was the black epoxy clay. So if you would like to create this yourself, you can find all the supplies for it at beadaholique.com. And if you just thought this was really neat and want to see other videos using epoxy clay, please check out our other videos on YouTube as well as our website. Thanks for watching.